This is Keep Blooming. I'm your host, Liz Montigny. On the podcast today, I have 3 ways to give yourself a spring makeover right now. And I'm not talking about looks, I'm talking about your life. Though if you take action on these things right now, it will absolutely improve your self-image. I also have some really key, important reminders for you about my destination retreat, as well as a ton of resources for you in the show notes. So please go check it out. All right, let's get growing and keep blooming. Do you want simple steps to level up your mind, body, and spirit, or encouragement as you navigate the challenges of motherhood? Or maybe you need a dose of hope to achieve that goal? Then you've tuned in to the right podcast. This is Keep Blooming, and I'm your host, Liz Montigny. Each week, I'll encourage you to drop the hustle mentality for hope and act on the dreams God has put on your heart. I'm a licensed Ziegler life coach. I've created a theater ministry, and like you, I'm doing all the things as a Catholic, a wife, and a mom to 3 boys. So let's get growing and keep blooming. You're listening to episode 26 of Keep Blooming. I'm your host, Liz Montigny. Today, this is part 1 of a 2-part series on giving yourself a spring makeover. So I don't know about you, and maybe I'm showing my age here, but way back when I was getting my teen magazines and watching daytime television, I always loved the spring makeover segments. I just thought they were so fun, but the whole idea of starting fresh. And I started to think about that in terms of our lives, right? That's all we're looking for is transformation. And how do we do that? So how do we make our lives new? And here we are in the octave of Easter. Happy Easter Wednesday. Okay, the party has not ended, folks. And, how can we how do we make ourselves anew? Okay. And so I want to talk about this in terms of the wheel of life. So if you've not heard of the Wheel of Life, we're going to get a little bit into that. And it's the foundation of my coaching practice. And it's where I start with my clients. And I think you'll love it. It's a really simple but profound tool. So before we get into all that, let's get into scripture. And this is Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31. They that hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on eagle's wings. They will run and not grow weary, walk and not grow faint. I so enjoy this, especially for this topic, because of the focus on hope and renewal. But then you just have this beautiful imagery of just soaring and not growing weary because, you have this new strength. So we're going to come back to that at the end of this little podcast. But let's dive into how you can give yourself a little spring makeover on the Wheel of Life. So first of all, what is the Wheel of Life? If you haven't been following me or you don't know anything about Zig Ziglar, I'll give you a quick rundown. So I am trained by the Ziglar team to use the Ziglar resources and just all that good stuff I can share with my clients. And Mr. Ziglar, he was an author, a motivational speaker, and his family has, carried on his legacy through coaching programs and business programs and so forth. And, if you just Google the name, so many things will pop up. So one of the things that is a big focus for him is something called the Wheel of Life. So if you think of a wheel, which is round, and on the wheel, there are 7 spokes: mental, spiritual, physical, family, financial, personal, and career. And if you just stop and think for just a second, anything about your life is going to fall into one of those 7 spokes, right? Okay. And what I do is I take my clients, through each of those spokes in detail when we work together. In my coaching programs and even on my destination retreat coming up. More about that later. But and so I really get to dive into detail with them, which is so great. And it's a really simple but profound snapshot, of where you are. And I have this little quiz this little assessment that you could take. The link is in the show notes, but basically you can give yourself a little quiz and like connect the dots on the wheel. And you can see if you have a round wheel, if you have a flat tire. Most of the time what happens is people have a flat tire somewhere. Like one of the spokes is lower than the rest, or maybe they have a round wheel, but it's really small. So there's room for growth. Okay. So I have that in the show notes. So go ahead and check that out. It is a great exercise to do. And I want to focus on the first 3 spokes, which are mental, spiritual, and physical. And those are the first 3 spokes I take my clients to. So you're like, today you're getting like a little glimpse of my coaching sessions. And yeah, so anyway, mental. Okay. I'm going to define this for you. And then I want to give you a little tip just on how you can improve this area, just one step at a time. Okay. So when I talk about the mental spoke, what I mean is it's what you choose to think about. It determines everything about how you live, right? So pay attention to your input, what you consume. I love this phrase, curate what you consume, right? And what do I mean by there? I don't mean what you eat, which yes, you do have to do, and we'll talk about that later. But what I'm referring to in this sense is think about all the things that you read, that you listen to, that you watch, and is it good? Like, is it improving your overall state of mind, your overall being? Or do you need to make some adjustments there? Okay. So that's the mental spoke. And my little spring makeover tip in this area is pick one thing in that area to change. Okay. Just drop a bad habit in this area for a good habit. So, for example, I think a really key thing to change for so many people and so many clients that I talk to is taking silence so you can hear what Jesus has to say to you, whether that's about that thing that you're worried about or whether it's just how much he loves you. Okay. And silence is so hard these days, right? Because there are so many noisy things out there. Not only audio, what we're hearing, but visual. I mean, what we're scrolling through, right? There's just so much information. So, really taking that time in silence to hear what God has to say to you is just a beautiful moment. It's something that I do each day. I work to actually add more time, more silence into my life. But I start with Lectio Divina of the gospel, which is like a little, I do a little version of this on the podcast, which is I basically read the gospel for the day and then just sit with it, and see what God has to say to me about it. But I'm also starting to add in just more silence, like being very intentional about what I have to say and is it necessary, and just being if there is an anxiety or a problem, just giving it to Jesus and being like, you take care of it. Or what is the next right step for me here? And just being silent about it so that you can hear what God has to say, right? I posted on Instagram last week, it was Holy Saturday actually, the Psalm, "Be still and know that I am God." And there's not enough of that. There's not enough of that stillness in our lives. So that would be spring makeover tip number 1. In that mental area, take some silence. There is so much noise in the world, okay? The second tip I have is on the spiritual spoke, okay? And spiritual, it's choosing your principles and your values. It's not just about, are you going to mass, and all that stuff. It's, your principles and values. What do you live by? They either limit or unleash your potential. Are your actions aligned with your values? Okay. And this is just a really key spoke for so many reasons. And, it really goes along with the mental and physical spokes, right? Because we are holistic beings, right? We are mind, body, and soul. And we are temples of the Holy Spirit. So this is a key area as well. So a little spring makeover tip I have in this area. Again, think of maybe a bad habit you have in this area. What could you replace it with? And how could you do that over time? Because sometimes it's really hard to go to cold turkey, especially on a bad habit, right? If you've been doing something every day, maybe even for multiple times a day, just, stopping it altogether is hard. But if you start to reduce it and then eliminate it, it gets a little bit easier, right? So here's my spring makeover tip in this area. And it's what I just talked about. Make sure what you're taking action on aligns with your values. Whether this is the work that you do, whether this is how you handle your family's schedule, okay? Or, your prayer life, whatever it is. I'll take the family example, okay? This especially came along for us during COVID, was that I just really recognized that we needed to take time as a family to just be together without all this stuff going on. And what I really focused on in this area was the idea of honoring the Sabbath. For us, that's Sunday, okay? And just keeping that for our family and for God, okay? And this had been a theme that up until then had been coming up for me for quite a bit. And so I really, when, COVID gave us time to do things like this, really focused on that. And it made such a huge difference. And so what I mean by this in terms of making sure my action aligns with my values in this area is, for example, if we get an invitation or sometimes even a work commitment or something that gets thrown at us for a Sunday, we decline it. Okay? We typically decline it. And I can maybe, in the past few years or so, can count on one hand the amount of times that we did commit to something on Sunday, maybe because, we made the choice that it was really important for us. But typically the saying no, right? And just saying, we don't have to do anything extra on this day. So if that is something that you're looking to work into your schedule, I have a short, but I think very helpful article on this in the show notes. just about honoring the Sabbath and ways to do that. So check that out, and that'll probably be a podcast soon. But so that's a little spring makeover tip for the spiritual area of your life. Okay. And my third tip for you, physical spoke. Okay. What do I mean by physical? So your physical body is your engine, right? Think of it as your engine, right? How persistent and consistent you are in fueling your body will impact your performance in every area of your life. Consider this for a moment. Very simple example. If you don't get a good night's rest, how do you feel the next day? Do you have energy? Do you have stamina? How's your mood? Are you cranky? How is all that? So, your physical habits, directly impact your performance in every area, not just your job, but with your family, with your friends, all of it. It matters. So consider again, what is a bad habit that you have in that area that you could change, that you could just make a different choice, that you could drop and replace with? So my spring makeover tip in this area, go outside. Oh my goodness. It's so beautiful. This week in my part of the country, it is a glorious sunny week. And it's kind of shocking because it's early April and there's not even rain in the forecast. So it's just beautiful. We've got flowers coming up and leaves popping and this kind of thing. And this is just anytime great to do. Get outside, appreciate what God has created for us, appreciate your surroundings, really take a look up and see the sky and the trees and just appreciate that for a moment. Our oldest son, he's going to be 13. I can't believe it, in just like a month now. And he is somebody who inspires me because he really does appreciate nature. We'll be driving to school and he's like, "Oh, Mom, I think that tree is starting to bloom," and he really does take a moment to look around and see what's going on around him in nature. And it's such a great reminder. And I think this is a great reminder for all of us, especially if you're stressed, if things are feeling heavy, just get outside, right? And appreciate what God has made for us. And not only that, that is helping your physical well-being too, right? You're getting fresh air, you're getting vitamin D from the sun, and this is all helping to improve your physical well-being, your mental well-being. There's a great post that I've seen in a number of different forms, but it always talks about, if you're stressed, go for a walk, right? It can help alleviate that tension, right? And it just changes your surroundings so you can just, physically be somewhere else and think about something else. It's also a form of exercise, right? Which is also helping your body, produce endorphins and all these other things that help with your mindset and your mood. So be sure to get outside and enjoy the season that we are in. So those are my 3 quick tips for a little spring makeover, focusing on the wheel of life. In my next episode, I will definitely talk about those 4 other spokes, which are the family, financial, personal, and career spokes. And I want to remind you, if these are areas that you are lacking in or struggling in, or maybe these are even areas that, man, you feel good. you have conquered it, but you know there's more. This is what I do. I focus on these key areas in our lives, how to transform them one step at a time. And that's something you need to do, and you want to redesign your life, and you want to be the person that God needs and wants you to be. Get in touch with me. I have a link in the show notes about booking time with me to, talk about where you are now and where you want to be and how to get there. So take a look at that. It's in the show notes, the link to talk to me about working together. And speaking of working together, the time is a-ticking. We have 17 days left on my Divine Mercy discount / early bird pricing on Restore Retreat 3.0 for the third year in a row. I am leading women on a destination retreat to San Miguel, Azores. It's stunning there. I mean, talk about go outside. Whoa. It's a 4.5-hour flight from Boston. So it's actually not that far away. It's part of Portugal, and it's an island in the Atlantic. It's just stunning. The food is amazing. All the flora, the fauna. I mean, it's just everything about it is just a great little slice of paradise. Natural hot springs, so like a natural hot tub. I mean, it's fabulous. So we are going with a professional travel planner. So basically the morning is prayer, and then masterminds with me, and then the afternoon and the evening, incredible meals and some really amazing adventures planned for us. So that is for a week in October of this year. Early bird pricing now. So just sign up and not worry about it and get excited. And you can save $500 now, and plus take advantage of group rate airfare, which is only $780, which I say only because airfare prices are a little crazy right now, and this is amazing. So you can go single occupancy, which is $3,500, or double occupancy, which is $2,500. And included in that pricing is everything. Once you get there, your hotel, which is a boutique hotel, like a villa that's like a 5-minute walking distance to the beach, and your meals, the masterminds with me, the Soulcore sessions, which is basically exercise to the rosary, like functional stretching with the power of the rosary. All of that is included in the pricing. So it's an amazing deal, and you should really take advantage of the savings now. Can you register after April 29th? Of course you can, but why do you want to pay more later? Someday is not a day of the week. Take advantage. All right. So that's what I have for you. Check the show notes for all the good stuff, and I will join you next week with the spring makeover tips for the other spokes on the wheel of life. Okay, so let's get back to Lectio Divina, and this is, again, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31. They that hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on eagle's wings. They will run and not grow weary, walk and not grow faint. If you need some hope, I am loaning you mine through this podcast, through my retreats, through my private coaching practice. So let's get growing and keep blooming. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Keep Blooming. Tune in every Wednesday for a dose of hope and encouragement. You can find this podcast on Anchor, Spotify, and Google and Apple Podcasts. To be the first to know about my upcoming retreats and latest offerings, be sure to hop onto my email list. Have a wonderful week, and remember to keep blooming.